me like a battery. I'm staying charged on my feet. I'm like a factory. Dropping lines like an assembly.
What's up, guys? Welcome to ZukaTube. And today I'm going to be reviewing a movie called Shut In. And this is coming out, it just came out February 10th, which was yesterday, on YouTube. It had a premiere, like where everybody could watch it for free. And then after that, it was members only through Daily Wire. And shout out to Daily Wire. I'm a member, so I was really excited to get to watch everything that they've been putting out so far. It's cool to see, you know, a broadened horizon for people as far as entertainment, you know, and to see people like Ben Shapiro with the Daily Wire put out, you know, different stuff, you know, just something new, a little breath of fresh air. You know, I previously reviewed the movie Run, Hide, Fight, which I very much enjoyed. Like, great movie. And this one, Shut In, as well, I'm really excited to talk about. Now, this was directed by DJ Caruso, and it was done with the Bonfire Legend guys, you know. And the main actress is this woman, Rainey Qualley, who plays Jessica. And then they also have a guy, Jake Horowitz, as Rob, and Vincent Gallo as Sammy. So pretty cool. Like, very few people in this movie. You know, it's very much consolidated in a house, as you'll see in the trailer, and then specifically at points in one room, hence the whole shut-in thing, right? So now I'm going to read this little summary of what this is about. I'm going to play the trailer. We're going to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to give you my review. We'll do some spoilers at the end, and I have a couple little clips and stuff to play from the movie as well. So let's get right into this, right? The summary here is: when a young mother is barricaded inside a pantry by her violent ex-boyfriend, she must use ingenuity to protect her two small children from escalating danger while finding an escape. And I'm going to say that that's very, very simple kind of scenario, right? You know, I'm trying to think of a movie that this reminds me of. Like, there's a couple movies where they're consolidated. Oh, yeah, I was just watching a kind of behind-the-scenes kind of look at this movie here from the Daily Wire, and they were talking about the guy. He had also done a movie, Disturbia, and was talking about the similarities of it being, you know, in a house and the kind of thriller aspect and everything like that. And yeah, that's 100%, you know, like that kind of feeling you get from this. So let's play the trailer real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. No, Vincent Gallo, he does a great job, man. And so does the main actress here, this Rainey Qualley.
Jessica.
I can smell the weakness from here.
You could tell this is a very edgy film too. There's some like violence and some real gritty stuff going on. They don't really hold back at all in this film, for sure. She gets locked in this pantry in this house.
What good is this doing?
It's pretty wild. You can see obviously there's a religious aspect.
I'm scared.
Now you must pay.
Your daughter, she's very pretty.
Yeah, pretty wild. So, okay, so that's the trailer, and you get the basic idea, right? So I'm going to lay this kind of scenario out for you, how this plays out, right? It's the woman Jessica, right? She's in this old house, and it's in the country, and you could tell, obviously, this is a house that she grew up in. She inherits this house from her mother who passes away. And she can't really afford to stay there. She's a single mother. She's a recovering addict, and she's got these two children. And she's going to try to move to Texas, and she's basically got her stuff together. She's loading up the car, and she's getting ready because that day they're going to head out. And, the house is already up for sale and the whole deal, right? And she's obviously struggling with herself, the issues it's causing, obviously, with her recovery and everything with family and everything like that. Obviously, not everybody would necessarily trust what you're saying, like over the phone or if they haven't heard from you in a while and they know what was going on last time they had spoke with you. So, like, I understand that they definitely do a good job of kind of showing that aspect right away. They kind of set the scene very well, and the character does a really good job. And she's also very bitter, right? She has this breakup and the passing of her mother, and, the kids are very aware of the death, and they discuss what happened to the father, where's he at, everything. And he's obviously, they had a separation due to addiction problems, right? So basically, as you can see in the trailer, they show up and cause conflict with her. So when she's going through little bits of the house trying to clean up a couple last things before they jet out of there, basically what happens is you see that the house has some issues. She's selling it, but yeah, it's a little beaten up. There's a lot of wear and tear. There's a leak in the bathroom. The pantry door that you see becomes an issue is like it locks from the inside, and you have to kind of wedge it open all the time. And a lot of people who have lived in some of these old houses, especially like an old barn house or something like that, you definitely right away are like, yeah, I get what you're saying. I've dealt with like dumb stuff like that all the time, right? Okay, so with that being said, like she's going through and she's going to clean out this pantry, and the door shuts in on her, and she gets locked in this pantry, and she has to communicate with her daughter, who is very young, her daughter Lainey, and kind of try to navigate this situation. And you could tell this is a very flawed mother. She's, grappling with a lot of things at once. And it's very apparent that there is a journey for this woman to go through in this movie. And so she's communicating with her daughter and this and that. And while that's happening, the boyfriend and another person, which is Vincent Gallo's character, Sammy. And man, this guy does the great job of like the crazed, like addict, and, just a really aggressive personality. And it's just awesome. But here's a little clip of our character Jessica here, just getting caught in the pantry in that scenario. And you do get a little show of the kind of religious aspect to this film, which I'll talk about as well in a bit. You could tell she's cleaning things out. She sees the Bible. She's obviously in some kind of conflict with religion, because growing up in that household and, now at her age, being a recovering addict and single mother and everything, I think there's a lot of, resentment and bitterness and everything you can imagine from somebody who maybe grew up in a religious household and didn't take well to a very, very strong traditional religious family, right? And a lot of people sometimes break out and do the complete opposite of their parents, and we all see that obviously sometimes that doesn't always go as great as we all planned, right? And you see that here, and you see that constant like reflection from this character where she sees that the religious items in the house, and you see that kind of bitterness, and at the same time, like there's a deep sadness within this character because she's aware, of her shortcomings, and she's aware of the loss of her mother, and how, in these times of need, how we all need someone, to nurture and to help guide us, especially, for a single mother, who is now in her dead mother's house. The boyfriend's not around. she wasn't always there for her children, and now she has to be there, and it's just a really tense situation for the character. And this is a very slow burn, this movie, right? Because obviously it becomes a conflict when the boyfriend and this character comes in. They cause a lot of problems. You see in the trailer, that money becomes an issue, and there's a struggle with that. But at one point, the boyfriend gets very spiteful and angry with her and causes some conflict and locks her in this pantry. And just it's a brutal scenario how it happens. It's very edgy. I mean, like, you think a company like Daily Wire, you think a conservative company, it'll be a little bit more toned down. Maybe some of that stuff will be hidden, but definitely like maybe edgy to the point where they show up to the point of violence, but don't show that. But no, I mean, this is a really gritty movie, and they really let you have it and show the real tension and reality of, a recovering addict and someone who's still struggling, who maybe are split apart, and there's little broken pieces of what, kind of once was, right? So it's very interesting to watch that play out. And when she gets locked into this pantry, she realizes this house is empty. Her young baby and the little daughter, I mean, now kind of have to fend for themselves, with her being able to guide the small child through what are very difficult tasks for a child of her size. She can barely even open and close a door, like to an extent with an old house like that, because otherwise she'd be able to help open this pantry door, right? But now, obviously, with her being shut in and locked into this, she has to figure out a way to grapple with all of her issues. You see in the trailer also, she's holding drugs. Like, the boyfriend puts is playing a lot of mind games with her and locks her in there and gives her drugs and is like, I'll come back, basically, when you're back to your normal self, and thinks that she's going to collapse. And this is when the reality hits. She's confined in this situation. There's not really any food. There's no resources. She has to communicate and try to, have an accelerated, established relationship with her daughter, to the point where she knows how to handle an extreme situation with her that she's probably never had any heavy situations with her not being present in her life for a long time. And she's got to come to terms with all that at once, and then at the same time try to escape this pantry. So the whole scenario is just wild. And I'm going to show you a couple more clips, but I'm going to do that right at the spoiler section. I don't want to show too much, and give too much away here. But basically it's the struggle with that, and the religion thing. Now I'm going to talk about that. That's really interesting, because once again, kind of being maybe negative and all that about that previously, now she starts to have moments of reflection and almost looking like she's looking to the religious, items in the house for guidance, and she reflects on things, and then at points you have to deal with the fact that maybe you never made peace or got to apologize or mend things with people in your family before they had passed, or you regret not being there for certain people at certain key moments, and you, with no one left to help you or to necessarily care for you in that point, you are the only person there, and you have to do all of this at once. Like, that struggle is intense, right? And it's a very slow burn. And the one thing I have to say that's my complaint about that is there is, for me, I want a lot of intense action or intense thought to be had, which they do a good job of, but I obviously, I'm like, okay, we can trim some fat in this for sure, but the kind of deep thoughts and discussions you can have when you watch this movie, if you want to, consider some of the deeper points that they're bringing in as a factor in this, because she has to find herself. She has to maybe even find God, maybe find a way to connect with her family, all different things, and have to get out of this very crazy survival scenario, right? And it's a great movie. I have to say I very much enjoyed it, and I don't know if I'd say I enjoyed it as much as Run, Hide, Fight. I mean, Run, Hide, Fight was like a real thrill ride for me. I really enjoyed it. It was a very gripping movie. This was a lot more of a slow burn and a more intense movie as far as the way it had to make you think or feel about a person, like directly, and like not necessarily what was happening to her in that moment. Like there was that, but the kind of point where you were looking deeper into her reflection on what she had already done that you won't see in this movie. And I enjoy that. And with that being said, I would give this movie like a solid, like an 8 out of 10. And I would have obviously rated it probably a bit higher if it was a little bit more faster pace for me, like, because I could trim some of that stuff out. And I like the aspect of that's why I do this videos, this whole video thing to begin with, is I like the water cooler talk aspect where I get to kind of discuss these random little tidbits that I was thinking about during the movie, and you know, maybe somebody will want to discuss it back and forth. Like that's the stuff that I didn't have to take some of that time in the more drawn out parts of the movie to think about. I wanted to do that with other people. And you know, like, so right away, like me and my girlfriend talk a bit about the movie right after it's over. And I felt like at points during the movie, during the slow burn, if you're watching it with friends, you almost want to like start talking about it during those moments, you know, so those little draggy moments of it are the only little complaints that I really have. Otherwise, like the performances are crazy. Like the movie's really good. I had a really good time with it, and I'm like so pumped now for what they're putting out, because the first 2 movies now through Daily Wire, and this is the first like official Daily Wire movie that they like made, and I'm pretty impressed with the kind of like dark and gritty aspect of where they're going, and the strong female leads they bring on so far have been really great. And you know, you got to see trailers, like when you watched the premiere yesterday night, you got to see previews beforehand. And it was previews of stuff that they're doing. A movie called Hyperions, and a movie with Gina Carano, which is Terror on the Prairie, right? And they look crazy, like super gnarly movies. So I'm really excited for that. And with that being said, like, yeah, again, I'd give this a solid 8 out of 10. Super enjoyable movie. Definitely check this one out. And now let's get into some spoilers, because there's a couple little things I want to talk about here. Spoilers. All right. So as far as the spoilers go, right? Let me just do a little boop, 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 boop search. I want to show a clip, right, of the moment where one of the characters, the character Sammy, Vincent Gallo's character, comes back, and he's like the creepy addict / like apparently like sex offender, you know, the whole deal. So like that's pretty wild. And the clip is just cool, and you see a little glimpse of it in the trailer, but I'm going to show you like that whole little sequence there.
Here it comes.
At this point, you know, she's trying to get out, so she's trying to lure him with drugs, and she's fearing for her children's lives, because obviously he's there being very predatory. But look at how vicious, like,
You'll get out when I get out. Keep your other hand out of your, or I will cut it off.
Get your kids in front of you, you whore. Get it out of my hand.
like, oh man.
My hand, you bitch. Get it out. What did you do?
And you could see her hand is injured, because when they went to nail her in there, her hand was on the door, and a nail went right through her hand. So she's pissed and kind of gets even a little bit too at the same time. And she looks over, you know, and at moments like this, she looks over at this cross, and you're thinking like, is she regretting what she did? Is she looking constantly for guidance? Is she thinking like that was a good choice, and looking up being like, I see what I have to do now? Like you kind of are constantly thinking how she's going to feel or react when she is reflecting upon the very little things that she has to look at and think about in the room, right? So very cool. And then like later on, when this is all said and done and she finally gets out and she crawls, through the part of the wall and all this stuff, which I'm not going to get too much into, but you can see obviously that she's working on getting out of the place, right? How she gets out and the whole deal, you can watch the movie to find out the extra details about all this. But obviously, there's a situation with the ex, and he has to get back there at some point. And the character Rob, he comes back and gets in a situation with her where she has to fight him and try to save her children. And he wants to kind of force her to relapse still, and he's just an evil guy, but also you can see that he's so dependent on not only the companionship but the drugs, obviously. And so she makes a decision to try to fight back and does some pretty gnarly shit, and it gets pretty gruesome. And I'm gonna leave all the really good parts that you miss like out of it, and just show you this one cool clip here. And you can see she's like, damn, dude, my hand's all messed up, and I tried to hit this dude, but he's fucked up and ODing.
Won't you give me this? I gave you 3 grams of your shitty cut meth. The stuff that you locked me up with. While my baby's cold and alone and in
Like you
danger.
could see, like,
And I was rotting away.
she's not
in a
gonna forget
fucking
what this
pantry.
happened, and the risking of her children's life, not to mention her own.
I'm not nothing.
But the way she feels about her children and the way she takes on the responsibility and everything, she's not having it. Dang. Juicy. Man, gnarly stuff, right? So the end resolve in this film, and her, it's a really cool little message at the end, right? And they show her at the end, she's remaking her mom's apple butter recipe that she found in the pantry, and that was the one little thing that kind of helped save and nourish the kids and herself while she was in there. That was all that was left in the pantry. It was this old thing, and she found a Bible, and the Bible that she was going to throw out, luckily she kept. And in a moment where she was in an instance where she almost relapsed, she was looking at that, and she freaked out and noticed when something happened and she interacted with the book that she found a $100 bill. And she looked in every page at a specific passage, had $100 bills and some old photos with memories, some notes, this and that. And she found the apple butter recipe and the things that she had to come to terms with. And she really just, that when she realized she's never going to get the chance to mend things and forgive her mom and realize the traditional values that she was trying to instill in her daughter, and that it took a certain point of hitting rock bottom and having to reflect and get hit with the reality and face those things when it's kind of too late, to mend or have any kind of resolve, what I mean, at that point is awesome, because when you see it happen and you see her coming to grips with that, and then looking obviously to those values that she was trying to instill in her, and her kind of taking them on after all of that, hitting that rock bottom, and then finally being like, oh my God, this all just clicks now. I understand what she was doing. What was I thinking? And I think that, you know, a lot of us, some of us we're late bloomers on some of these things, you know, and, you know, it's a shame for the people who don't make it through some struggles in life, but for the people who, for the people who do, whether it's sooner or later, you know, some people do have a moment where they realize that, you know, they'll never get that time back, but at the same time, it takes that real pit of despair moment to be like, oh my God, why haven't I seen all this my whole life? I can't believe this has all even happened. And I've let it go this far. So that was really interesting. And she finds this apple butter recipe. And the money. So she decides to keep the house, and she's carrying on the legacy. She's learning the recipe. She's selling it. She's teaching it to her child, who loves going out and picking apples in the field and all that, and learning about them. And man, it was just a really wholesome finish to such a gritty and serious film. So I really enjoyed that. I like wholesome family stuff, and I think that's why I'm also such a big fan of the Superman and Lois show, because that's a really wholesome kind of family show. And so like I like stuff like that, and that's my little bias with certain films, right? So with that being said, again, I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. Definitely now, to be able to see the film, you'd have to be a Daily Wire member. So I definitely would encourage people, if you want to start seeing some of this new entertainment that is going to be coming out, that's definitely a little breath of fresh air from what you've seen, you know, with the mainstream Hollywood stuff. Definitely, I'm encouraging you to check it out. You know, so with that being said, Shut In, 8 out of 10, Bazooka Tube, out.
Dropping lines like an assembly. I'm staying on point. It's my strategy. Feel like they tracking me. Yo, let me get on one. Nah, go get your tracks up. Homie, can I steal some? Homie, you can't stack up. My brother, can you shout me? You're barking up the wrong tree. My dog, why do you doubt me? Cause you can't do shit without me.
Real like the radio and never play it, but that's cool. The enemy's supposed to hate it.